Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Blank Check here, and welcome to part 2 of my Q&A. I want to thank you guys up front. It amazes me how part 1 has been received already. It honestly got more views in its first handful of days than I expected it to get in its lifetime. Thank you all, I am very pumped over that. Where part 1 revolved around my experiences with the show, part 2 focuses on my experiences in the fandom. The topics I'll be covering here are my OC, his cutie mark, the past, present, and future of my channel, YouTube creators, and Brony fanworks, with a bit of an extended emphasis on fanfiction. No sense wasting time, let's jump in. Category 1, The Legend of Blank Check. Number 1, why is your OC so adorable? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Blank was raised by chihuahuas inside a gingerbread house, where every night he slept on a bed of marshmallows. Also, to maintain his youth, Blank routinely sucks out the souls of lost and abandoned OCs. Number not actually a question, your OC is rather unique from what I've seen. Thank you. There are a lot of OCs, and I tried to make him not look the same as 100 others. My accomplishment there is highly debatable. Number 2, was Blank Check your first OC? Yes, Blank was the first creation that I would really consider my OC. Number 3, does your OC have a backstory? I keep asking, and he totally refuses to tell me. He's as much a mystery to me as anyone else. Number 4, how long did it take you to think of your OC? It happened over the course of a couple days, but I like to think it was 21 years in the making. Number 5, if the writers of the show came to you and asked if they can put your OC in the show and have you speak some lines, would you accept? Abso-freaking-lutely, particularly if the line was, "Why, yes, Fluttershy, I will marry you. Thank you for asking." Number 6, Blank Check. I've been watching your videos for about a year now, and I really enjoy seeing you react, and I love your OC. And I've been trying to make my own YouTube channel soon. I've made my OC already, but the thing is, I want to know what gave you the idea behind yours. Thanks and sweet kisses. More concisely, how did you come up with your OC? What inspired the design? I don't know if there was much inspiration involved, but Blank was a case where the character was developed in real time. I made decisions about his design while I was in the middle of actively making him. Before he was even an idea, I was simply creating a base for the purposes of practicing vectors. I actually made him only a day after I downloaded Inkscape, the first time I ever touched a vectoring program. I ended up using Dr. Hooves from Slice of Life as a model, so his body type is roughly the same, which is pretty standard stallion. When I decided to turn him into my OC, my focus was on simplicity. I'm a fan of subtlety and minimal execution, not big on frills and accessories, and I definitely wanted him to seem like a character that would be possible in the context of the show. Solid, single color coat, no more than 2 main colors, not an alicorn, etc. I also wanted to make him look pretty unassuming and maybe a bit humble, thus the doofy, unkempt mane with a solitary streak for quote-unquote flair. Number 7! What is it with the grays and the reds and the colors? The red came first. I did not want a coat color that copied a ton of others, but I wanted something reasonable. I also knew that I wanted to use Blank for reactions. Blue was my first choice, but with Cobalt, Stormlight, Blue Star, and others, I wanted to avoid matching a bunch of my contemporaries. Green was also a possibility, but at the time, Espresso was a big OC reactor and had the most comparable channel. I'll get back to him later. I did not want orange or yellow, white was too common, black, no. And I did not want to match the show's main character. On top of that, I have something of an attachment to this deep red maroon, because it's been one of my major school colors for over a decade. So then, I needed the main to not clash. A lot of things don't work with maroon. Black works, but black and red is the most vilified color scheme, and I could not do that. White was a bit severe, so gray was a good, tempered color to use, and it did not steal focus. It made the blue eyes stand out more. I wanted blue in there somewhere, and it's nice because they match my eyes. Number 8. What color is Blank's magic? Most people go with eye color, but it doesn't have to be. No, you're right, it's blue. I like it that way. Though I really should get some vectors of Blank doing magic. Number 9. Why did you choose a unicorn as your OC instead of a Pegasus or an Earth Pony? Because he doesn't wallow in mud and he's not a chicken. Horse racism! Unnecessarily deep answer. This is actually one of the more personal decisions I had to make. The three races, through the main characters and the rest of the show, have developed some implied traits that my mind tends to associate. It became clear to me that Pegasus was off the table, because I envision a more carefree attitude, freedom from the weight and worry of the grounded world, as well as a competitive edge. I am not a Pegasus. I would like to be a Pegasus. Blank Check is a unicorn who wants to fly. Instead, I am a studious, punctual, work-obsessive, more openly self-critical spirit. But in reality, Blank very well could have been an Earth Pony. But magic provides a number of possibilities, not only for the character, but also for the channel. Also, making a horn vector is easy, and you only need one unless you spend too much time in the sauna. Number Wingardium Leviosa. What is your opinion on alicorn OCs and non-pony OCs? As I mentioned, I prefer simplicity for personal OCs that aren't intentionally jokey. Alicorns seem excessive. They come packaged with an implied superiority in terms of ability and/or status. And of course, in the context of the show, we equate them with royalty. Can someone make it work? In theory, yes. But I'm more skeptical up front if I see a horn and wings. My mind conjures up tropes like tragic backstory, amnesia, inner demons, and a perceived higher purpose. Or that kid on the playground shouting, "Yeah, well my robot has sword arms and laser eyes." Non-ponies, I think, can work fine, especially if they're regular species in the MLP universe. Griffins and zebras are cool with me. Changelings might be a little harder to pull off, but they can work. Though using a changeling as an excuse to have a bunch of different OCs at once would feel a little cheap. Number one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple pony eater. Why in Celestia's magnificent sunlight is your name Blank Check? The name probably took longer than the character. It's hard to think of something that isn't either really common, really impractical, or too over the top. It was the final piece of the puzzle, and as such, I used all the tools at my disposal, namely the IOU note, as my sources of inspiration. Even though the word blank has a specific connotation in the context of MLP, Blank Check was simple, understandable, and relevant. Ponies often have names relating to their cutie marks, even though that doesn't necessarily make sense. Which leads me to... Category 2, the Cutie Mark Conundrum. Try to keep along. Questions 1 through 10. Also, what's your cutie mark stand for? What is your cutie mark? Why don't you have your cutie mark? Do you have a cutie mark? Because it looks like you wrote something in another language on a paper and taped it to your flank, or your cutie mark looks very realistic. Why do you have a sticky note instead of a cutie mark? Will you ever get your cutie mark? Who stole your cutie mark? The sticky note says IOU, so that means it was there but is borrowed? Or is that your cutie mark? Is your OC's cutie mark taped on, or is it his actual cutie mark? What inspired your cutie note on your butt? How did your OC get his cutie mark? There's a reason I read all of those questions in a row, to emphasize the contradictions in how people interpret the IOU note. And it's the same reason why you're not going to get a straight answer from me. Is it his cutie mark? If it is, what does it mean? Could it be that he has the bad habit of borrowing money from people, so he's always in debt? Or is it the opposite, that other ponies come to him for help, so someone always owes him a favor? Maybe, in that manner, he lives up to his name and hands out too many metaphorical blank checks. If it's not a cutie mark, why is the note there? Did someone steal it in the middle of the night, and he woke up to find a note taped to his butt, and now he travels the land searching for a missing mark, keeping the note there as a constant reminder and source of motivation? Has he simply never received one? Or does the note hide the truth? Does he feel too embarrassed or unworthy to show his mark? Leaving this to the imagination is too much fun for me. I'd love to see people create in-depth backstories based on any of these ideas or others. Like, what if the mark was related to love, but something tragic happened to a special sun pony in the past, and now he feels cursed by it? Maybe there's actually a heart there, but his heart was ripped out long ago. Tragic backstories are the best. Also, fun fact, my standalone IOU note vector has the shadow on it matching his flank. That seems to point to it being a piece of paper, right? But consider the possibility that the cutie mark is so self-aware that it has built-in camouflage. Or maybe it is officially just a sticky note, and if you took it off, underneath, his cutie mark is actually the same thing, and he just likes to troll everyone. But really, not to say that none of that was real, that was totally real. But as for the inspiration question, the note was originally a placeholder because I could not think of the cutie mark. However, it grew on me over time, and after I chose his name, I had to keep it. Category 3, a recipe for reaction. Number 1, what gave you the inspiration to create a YouTube channel? And number 2, why did you choose reaction videos? These two questions go hand in hand. I made a YouTube channel because I wanted to do reaction videos, and I chose reaction videos for a few reasons. 1, my goal is to make videos that I would want to watch. I began checking out this genre, this corner of YouTube, in earnest last June. Specifically, it was sometime after Slice of Life aired. That was such a landmark episode for reasons all its own, and I found myself wanting to see how people responded to a dozen different moments throughout the episode. I watched pretty much every available Slice of Life reaction on YouTube, and that's one reason why it's my most viewed episode of the entire series. This prompted me to search for commentaries on other episodes, as well as fan videos I loved, especially Snowdrop, Friendship is Witchcraft, Children of the Night, etc. I generally stayed within the MLP fandom. I wasn't all that interested in the big name reactors that accumulate a ton of random videos. At some point, I considered what I was watching and I thought, I can do that. And I'm sure a lot of people think that when it comes to these videos, and they would be correct. Specifically though, I thought, I can do that, but I can also shape more of a performance out of it. Even though my school and career path have headed in a very different direction, part of me very much admires performers, and I've always enjoyed the idea of entertaining other people. Reactions offer an avenue for personality and improvisation, and by the time I started, there was an established, viable MLP-specific community for it. On top of that, these videos let me show admiration toward the ridiculous amount of dedication and creativity in this fandom. I love showcasing talented people and their work here, and few things make me happier than reading comments talking about how I helped introduce someone to a new animator or a new author. The other reason I chose reactions is practicality. As someone who was in his senior year of college, commentaries were viable in terms of time commitment in a way that something like animation is definitely not. Number 3, what do you like about you and your channel? For whatever reason, I'm compelled to address that this is inherently the braggiest question of the Q&A. I mentioned performance, and that's one answer. It really is how I treat this channel. I make a point to maintain an energy and level of emotion that you would not get from me otherwise. I'm naturally a pretty subdued person, but this channel was founded on the premise of constant, enthusiastic commentary. One of the most common comments I get is, "Shut up and let me watch the video," and people typing that fail to realize that I rarely consider that valid criticism. I hold firm to the idea that reactors should react, and when you're in an audio format like me, it means doing what I do. I try to be transparent about this. My reactions all come from a legitimate internal response, but I bring myself to amplify and vocalize those thoughts and emotions. It's why I can't just sit down and record something on a whim. I need energy and I need a deliberate state of mind. Doing the recordings can be draining. This juggling act of focusing my eyes and ears on the video, trying to parse out what it's doing, what I'm saying, and what I need to say, and making sure my tongue doesn't fall out of my mouth. And that's ultimately why I find value in them. On a personal level, that's what makes me feel justified in producing the videos. Well, that as well as the editing. I'm really thorough with the audio. I remove static, I normalize, I amplify, I compress my audio, and often the source videos as well. I also duck the source audio at varying levels whenever I speak to mix them better. That's become relatively simple. But I also manually pass through the entirety of my audio to remove background noise, coughs, clicks, random breathing. I mentioned it once in my Undertale playthrough, but I have a chronic sort of cough that pops up in my everyday life. It's minor enough that it generally doesn't faze me, but it's always there. In my longer videos especially, I can find myself removing dozens of coughs as I comb through the recording. I make sure that when I'm not talking, my audio channel is totally devoid of noise. And often I manually fade out my lines to avoid harsh transitions into silence. And of course, the video side of editing is obvious to you guys. Timing dozens, sometimes hundreds of vector transitions can take a little while. I like that my channel requires a time and an effort that people often don't associate with videos like these. Number Wallaby Beetles. What are some of your favorite reactors to watch, and were any of them an inspiration for starting reaction videos? Before making my channel, I became a particular fan of Ratchetness, Alex Side, and Espresso. Also, one of my favorite slice of life reactions came from the Flaming Shark. In terms of modeling my channel, my biggest inspiration was Espresso, who is no longer in the fandom. He had a smart formula in terms of video structure and visual layout. These days, Ratchetness and Alex are doing fewer reactions, and Espresso's out, as I said. I'm less likely to watch new episode reactions because I see every one several times over while editing, though Luffy is Cool has noteworthy commentaries there. Nowadays, I like to check out Epic V when she actually friggin' uploads something. PyDisliker has a great sense of empathy, Stormlight's always engaged by the video, Rarity Dash always has something new, Brony Monster's always on top of things as well. And Brony Burning Axe has awesome energy and enthusiasm. He deserves to be bigger, though I don't know what's happening after this recent copyright scare. Number 5. What has been the funniest and weirdest video you've reacted to, not counting MLP episodes? My answers here would probably be fanworks regardless. For weirdest, Pony.mov is close, but it's generally understandable. Pinky Prime is hard to beat. Pikapedi is a monster and should probably be monitored at all times. Funniest? Of my released videos, Anthology 5 or Brony's React to Slice of Life have the quantity. Pound for pound though, maybe the Fluttershy Siri conversation or Winter's F'd Up. Number, choose your favorite child. What's your favorite video you've ever uploaded? That is a question. I can think of 3 answers here for different reasons. One would be my best review, which, depending on your taste and humor, is probably either Saddle Row Review or Flutterbrudder, because I put more time into those than any of my videos, and I feel like my writing was pretty on point. Pick number 2 would be my Fallout Equestria video, where I reacted to the trailer animation and Out of the Frying Pan. But the first 5 minutes are just me explaining my history and love for the series. The reason it might be my favorite is because of how many messages I've received from people saying it convinced them to start the series, and they love it. In terms of feeling rewarded, that ranks up there with getting praise from the content creators I'm reacting to themselves. The third option would be Remembrance SFM. In addition to being my most liked video and getting the thumbs up from Argo himself, it's still the only reaction where I've cried, and that speaks to me. Number regret. Has there ever been something you wanted to react to, but haven't for whatever reason? Yes, there are some creators who don't want their material being reacted to, and if they've made that opinion publicly or privately, then I'm not going to cover their videos. And there's no reason to name names here. Outside of that though, still yes. An example is Creative Types by Animated James. There's no reaction to that because I made one and it was not good enough. I was engaged by the song and the story, and by the time it ended, I had not given enough input during the video to justify the reaction to myself. I will throw out reactions if I don't find them valid, because the people making these videos deserve better. I may still end up covering the material, but it would be in a different format. Number TikTok. What do you do while waiting for your video to upload? During render and upload, I'll work on the thumbnail if it's not finished, and during processing, I'll fill in the description, tags, etc. Otherwise, I just do whatever because I usually don't publish a video right after uploading it. I just make it unlisted and wait until the time I want it to go live. I often upload videos the night before release in case there's a problem. Number Arts and Crafts. Who does your character vectors? I do! Blank Check was my first actual vector. It's why no other OCs look quite like him. Those are my personal imperfections you're staring at. I know several people who have commissioned vector sets from Oblivion Fall, and they're wonderful. He undeniably outclasses me, but you can tell they're from the same creator. However, these curves are all me, baby. Oh geez, do you ever think your Blank Check OC images will be fully animated? That would be awesome! I would also love to see that. But unless someone feels very charitable and dedicates a lot of time making those transitions, it's not going to happen. Testing 1 2 3. What is your microphone? For nearly all the videos I've put out this year, excluding Trixie Sparkle 1 through 8, I use a Blue Yeti. It's common around YouTube and for podcasting. It's a very sturdy piece of equipment, and it runs around $120. And yes, I bought it specifically for this channel, which I make no money from. Maybe you guys are correct about Blank Check's cutie mark signifying financial inadequacy. It's a quality mic, and it definitely picks up the bass in my voice. The bass in my voice. But it's best with low volume environments because it is more sensitive to background noise than some other mics are. Smooth. How do you get your voice to sound so fabulous, my dear princess? Here's what I do. I get close to the mic, all up in its business, invading its personal space. I put on my podcaster hat and meditate for a few minutes. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And then, after recording, I edit out all the dumb things my mouth does, so it sounds like I'm better at talking than I actually am. Plus, for intros, outros, and scripted material like this, I re-record lines a lot because I'm way too picky. Number 13. It is actually number 13. What editing software do you use? Audacity for audio, VSDC for video. Number 14. Where did you learn to edit? Did you teach yourself or did you have help? What programs do you really trust to use? All my editing knowledge began when I decided to make a channel. Most of it has been trial and error, just toying with different options and effects. Audacity seems like the standard for audio, and for good reason. It has a wide array of tools, a solid user interface, it's pretty stable, and it's free. In terms of video though, I don't have a recommendation. I use VSDC and it's competent, allowing for picture-in-picture editing that lets me do all the vector positions and transitions I need. But it was not designed to handle longer videos with the number of objects I use. It would be fine for most reactors, but sequencing a couple hundred images is a bad idea. It crashes during literally every reaction I make. I've simply learned to save religiously and reflexively quit and restart when it freezes up. I've been wanting to change for a while. Sony Vegas seems popular and capable of the same things, but I have no personal experience. Number square root of 225. How long have you been on YouTube? In terms of watching videos, years. But in terms of making videos, I really only started last year with reactions. Number fan service. Do you plan on showing fan art on your YouTube channel? I could definitely do that. It's something I've thought about, just was never sure where and when would be best. I'll try to think about the most appropriate place to show it off, because I do love getting fan art, and I've been given some beautiful interpretations of blank. And finally, I originally had a section with reaction requests from a bunch of different people, but generally the answer is the same. Maybe? There's a lot on my plate right now, and I'm focusing reactions on content whose creators have clearly indicated their approval. Ideally, I'd like to see some form of acknowledgement or okay from a creator before I tackle their material. I really don't want to step on anyone's toes, and I'd hate to upset someone or cause any conflict. As it is, we get enough trouble from outside the fandom. The MLP React list, put together by Brony Monster and PieDisliker, has received dozens of responses so far, and I've reached out with the hopes of getting more. Time will tell. Category 4. The End of Pony. Number bro, if you gave up being a brony, what would you do with your life? You heretic! Ponies are love, ponies are life. Aside from focusing on my career, I'd probably just go back to being a bigger gamer. In the past, that was what generally stole my free time. I have a long history with video games, and an ongoing attachment to the industry that I doubt will ever disappear. Number knee, what are your plans for after the eventual end of MLP? Will you continue to run the channel and focus on something else, or will you end it? The thing you need to know about me is that I rarely plan more than 10 days ahead at any given moment. It really depends on where my life is at that point in time. If I'm still deep in grad school, it would be in my best interest to stop and focus on other things. But I never know, something else may have come out that caught my eye by then, or I could transition into gaming. And I'm sure the fandom will have some legs, helping it persist for a while afterward, so it could allow for a more gradual, natural transition. Category 5. Horse Channels. Number 1. How do you feel about the Brony community? Well, I love it. It's the reason for this channel and the video you're watching. The fandom is a creative powerhouse and a source of much-needed positivity. For the most part, I've found it incredible how welcoming and enthusiastic the general community is. YouTube comment sections are notoriously volatile, but on my channel, things have been so great. You guys are awesome. When I began watching, I was only in it for the show. I did not have much interest in the fandom. But then I started seeing and hearing some of the crazy things being made. In particular, I came across the Brony music scene, and I was astounded by the care and the talent behind full original pieces based on this cartoon. I could not understand that level of dedication and attachment. Some people respond to that with dismissal, denial, or even anger, but my response was curiosity. So for a long time, I felt like an outsider looking in, intrigued by the size and fervor of the fandom. Pretty soon, the community became a bigger reason for my interest than the show it was based on, and that holds true to this day. There are some extremists, some bad eggs, but that's inevitable for any community of a certain size. It's easy to focus on the bad parts, but it's better for everyone to emphasize the good majority. And this self-perpetuating, creative machine that spews out art and animation and music and stories collaborations across states, countries, and continents. The fandom continues to impress. Number, It Takes Two to Tango. Have you ever considered making a collaboration video with other bronies? I have considered. Problem is that I'm terrible at being social, and my channel revolves around me not shutting up. I would have to approach a collab with a very different state of mind. It might happen. Number, Hey, I know that guy. Collab with Rarity Dash? I don't know. We're kind of in the same situation. I'm not sure if he's the collab type. Number, Hey, I know that girl. Collab with Epic V? Maybe. I know she'd like to, though I'm not 100% sure how to facilitate that. Number 5. Have you ever watched any of the Mysterious Mr. Enter or AC Race Best? Well, yeah, I've seen Brony's React from Race Best, obviously, and I've watched some of his convention panels. Mr. Enter I've heard of, but I haven't really explored his content. Number 6. Who would you most like to collab with? Conan O'Brien. No whacking. I have no idea how that would work, but you put me on the spot. Blank, didn't you write a script for this? Shut up! Me? Number Adorable, what's your favorite part about Flufflepuff? The way she stares at the sunset every morning, how she eats her carrots one nibble at a time, the way she caresses my cheek and whispers in my ear, "You'll never be alone again." Either her adorable cat-like behavior, or the weirdly endearing mix of cute, naive innocence with bug fluff sexuality. Number 12. Do you like Magpie Pony? I love her creative work. Yeah, Magpie's awesome. Trixie Sparkle and a handful of comic dubs are all I've seen, but I love her stuff. It's impressive how she's improved over time. Number, gun at my head, which do you prefer, Bride of Discord or Princess Trixie Sparkle? Once again, like you're forcing me to choose between children. This is difficult because one's finished and the other isn't. Trixie Sparkle started out a bit better, and it has the advantage of being more of a musical. That's a cheat code toward winning my heart. But Bride of Discord was more cohesive, whereas PTS did a bit more meandering in the middle. Bride of Discord has also been more emotionally rewarding, getting me more invested in the characters. I think it had the biggest moments of the two series, between the end of the date and Discord's relapse. However, PTS has come back stronger than ever. Episode 9 is the most technically impressive thing between either series, feeling the most professionally done and delivering two really great songs. I need to see how Trixie Sparkle ends before I can say either way. Number prediction. What do you think is going to happen in Princess Trixie Sparkle Episode 10? And what is your favorite PTS episode? Ooh, I'm not sure. Estelle is either going to imprison Trixie, or since Luna denied her, she might give Trixie an offer of power. And because Twilight assaulted her, I think the magician would take that offer, and things would go really downhill. On the other side, Twilight will either be defensive and have a falling out with her friends, or she'll have a crisis and fall to pieces, and her friends will have to pick her back up. My favorite episode would definitely be number 9 so far. It impressed on every level. Number, back to this. Do you plan to do a collab with other analyst bronies like Dr. Wolf and other stuff like that? Not at the moment. I'm not really part of the analysis community, and I don't personally consider my reviews to fall under the same umbrella. We differ in that my primary goal is entertainment with incidental analysis, and that group is mostly the opposite. Number who? What do you think about Brony Notion? You kind of sound like him without his accent. Maybe it's because I secretly am Brony Notion. Plot twist. I've heard of him, but I've never really seen his videos, so I have no opinion. Number analysis. Do you follow any other Brony analysts? Do you watch any analysis videos or reviews? If so, who do you watch, and who did you discover first? Not regularly. I'm most likely to check out a video from KP every now and then. That is, of course, I love Kim Possible a lot. She may have been the first one I really found. And I'll find myself starting up a Dr. Wolf video since he releases them the same day as the episodes. But I have dabbled in several channels' content to some degree. I don't watch a lot of reviews in general, at least ones that aren't comedic by nature like Nostalgia Critic or AVGN. My interests in the show don't totally mesh with a lot of analysis. I focus on what's written, delivered, and edited, the content and the characters that are provided, and how the showrunners work within their means. Many of their videos involve forming deeper connections or what that implies in the grander scheme of the show's universe. Something inside me opposes the notion of dissecting My Little Pony in the same way I would something like Breaking Bad. Number follow-up, favorite Brony analyst, and who is your favorite Rift Cafe member? I don't really know the active cast of the Rift Cafe. I'm not sure if these questions are synonymous or not, and I feel like I'm not familiar enough with most of their content to really have a distinct favorite. Maybe KP if she counts? I am friends with one of them in real life, so I'm biased there, but I'm not going to name names. Honestly, for favorite analyst, I'm inclined to say Greg from Dawn Somewhere, formerly Fim Flam Philosophy. To me, his Mentally Advanced series could be considered analysis presented in a more subtle and entertaining way. Number Scoops. What MLP fanworks had you seen prior to starting your channel? I will likely miss a few here, but I can at least remember some that I get requested all the time. Snowdrop and Silly Philly's other videos, Double Rainboom, Inkpot's Jekyll and Hyde animatics, Friendship is Witchcraft, Children of the Night and Chip of Discord, Beat It PMV, Anthology 1 and 2, Buttons Adventures and Don't Mine at Night, Celestia Being Deep, Brony Dance Parties PMVs, several Fallout Equestria videos including Leaving the Stable, some early Rainbow Dash Presents and Mentally Advanced episodes, Cupcakes HD, some epic rap battles, and most things related to original Brony music. There's plenty more, I'm sure. I caught a lot of early stuff and then hit a lull as I was digging deeper into college. That's why a lot of reactions you see on my channel are from a couple years back. I was pretty focused on other things for a while there. Number, do you like MLP animations more than cartoon animations? In the context of fan animations, yeah, I suppose so. There are other cartoon animations that are just as great, but I don't have that same inherent connection. In terms of the show itself, I have a different answer, but that'll be in part 3. Wow, really? What is your favorite fan animation / MLP video? Oh, you people. Let me tell you about a little underrated gem and romantic, dramatic, blood-pumping, tear-jerking epic called The Adventures of Swift Kick Tootaballs. That video changed my life for the better. It's a really hard question, but I think I can say it's Lullaby for a Princess. So many amazing things came together for that animation. It's beautiful, it sounds wonderful, it's full of emotion, tells a great story, and it's paced perfectly. Warpout crafted a short, dense video that manages to encapsulate what I love about the fandom. Are you serious? Who is your favorite Brony YouTuber, reactor, animator, analyst, anyone really? Let me tell you about a little underrated gem of a channel, starring a romantic, dramatic, blood-pumping, tear-jerking pony named Blank Check. I don't know. I'm going to toss out reactors up front because I'm too close, and they're watching this. Even then though, this question sucks. I love No Whacking, Eily Monty, Animated James, Dawn Somewhere, Fluffy Mixer, Argo Demon, Inkpots, Disney Fanatic, Magpie, on and on. I can't play favorites here. But you should all go over to Woodlore's channel. It is a crime that I have like 5 times as many subscribers. Magic 8 Ball. Out of all the big name bronies in the community, who do you think is most likely to get in the show and why? Well, Black Griffin already made it in technically, so I'll go with another musician because they can use a lot of background vocals. How about Ponyphonic? That, or AC Racebest is going to dye his hair, grow a beard, and walk into the studio pretending to be Larson, demanding to return. But what if that already happened? Number off topic, who are your top 5 YouTubers? For this one, I'm going to focus on non-bronies, or else we'll hit the same problem as earlier. And I'll stick with channels rather than people because I don't closely follow that many individuals. Game Grumps, I watch them pretty much daily, and I love Let's Plays with multiple people bouncing off each other. For me, they are the right kind of stupid and have wonderful chemistry. And I'll package in Ninja Sex Party because Dan Avedon is so wonderful a human being that he gets 2 mentions. JonTron needs a separate spot because he's no longer affiliated, but he's equally great. Markiplier, who has transcended my multiple person Let's Play rule ever since I watched his Draw My Life video. He has an earnest charisma about him that you cannot deny, as well as a heavenly voice. Giant Bomb, they have their own website, and I'm a premium subscriber, but I don't care, I want to mention them. Jeff, Vinny, Brad, Dan, Alex, Drew, Jason. It's a studio full of awesome and diverse personalities, and my favorite place to go to catch up with video games and the industry itself. And then Channel Awesome, specifically Doug Walker and the Nostalgia Critic team. I've been a fan of their work for years. Their videos rarely fail to entertain. And the final category for today, fan fiction. Number 1, I am still curious as to your FANFICTION username. If you are unwilling to give it, then perhaps a hint or a puzzle. Anything that gives us a chance to find out what it is. No hints in this answer. I might do something with it before the end of the summer that will make things clear. Maybe. Number 2, first pony fanfiction you read and completed? Question mark. My Little Dashie, one of the first fan works I came across in general. Being brand new into these things, and it having been under 2 years since my father passed, I was very taken by it. And it was one of my favorite fics for a while. My feelings toward it have tempered a bit, but it still earns credit for bringing the waterworks. Number War has changed. How did you become a big Fallout Equestria fan? When and how were you exposed to it? Have you read Fallout Equestria and Project Horizons? If so, what are your favorite characters and what did you think of the books as a whole? Also, ever played the Fallout games? Yes, in fact, I have read those stories. As mentioned earlier, I rambled about them in one of my early reactions. I adore Fallout Equestria. It was one of my earliest bits of exposure to fan material, and easily one of my favorites to this day. It introduced me to the idea of a fandom within a fandom, and I love that that is a thing. The original is my favorite fanfic, engaging me from start to finish during a 5-day reading spree, wholly contained within the fall 2012 finals week. I had kept it to the side for a couple months because it was hard to get decent reading time during the semester. I'm not sure what introduced me. It most likely came to my attention while searching for the most popular fics available. It's extremely difficult not to love Little Pip, but I'm also very much a fan of Calamity, and Derpy is the most wonderful ghoul that was or ever will be. It's been 3.5 years since I read the story, so I don't have the most detailed memory of everything. Project Horizons, though, is more fresh. That story is completely insane, often convoluted, too bloated for its own good, and Somber overextended his reach into the canon of the original. But I love it all the same. I prefer the original on the whole, but I do think Horizons often had better character conflict, both internal and external, as well as many impressive action scenes. Blackjack is a mess in the best possible ways. Rampage, while off-putting at first, surprisingly became my favorite member of her party. But I would be remiss not to include Golden Blood. The mystery surrounding his role in the pre-war story is perhaps my favorite part of the entire 1.8 million word ordeal. He invoked the same level of curiosity in me as the Hatch from the first season of Lost. And yes, I've played Fallout 3 and New Vegas. The latter probably aged better, but Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games of last generation. I love exploring Bethesda's world, and though the story isn't anything amazing, searching for Daddy Liam Neeson gave me a sense of purpose. Number Pandora's Box. Favorite pony fanfictions. See that S at the end of that? I added that character myself. Fallout Equestria is my favorite, but because no one asked, I'm going to take this time to ramble about my other favorites. If you remember back to the first Q&A, this will be like my favorite episodes question. Let's do it. Background Pony. This is a story where Lyra was cursed by Nightmare Moon during the premiere. Her affliction is absolutely terrible. Everyone has forgotten her. All traces of her existence have vanished, and ponies lose all memory of her every time they split apart. She effectively does not exist. This is the roughest fanfic I've read, but it's written incredibly well. It's in first person, and Lyra's prose is poetic and philosophical. And she perseveres, helping ponies in need, knowing that she'll never be remembered for it. Through all the pain, there lies a glimmer of hope and inspiration. The first half is a little slow, but it really goes places. If you are okay with your heart taking a beating, I would suggest it. The Immortal Game. This one feels like a crazy awesome anime to me. The tyrannical parents of Luna and Celestia return from their imprisonment, which was carried out by the royal sisters themselves, and they plan to take back control of Equestria, starting by removing Celestia from the equation and taking over Twilight Sparkle's mind. But the Sun Princess has prepared all her pieces and is ready to let them carry out her plan. It's a grand game of chess that starts out with a bang. I think of this story as 3 distinct acts, each with a unique and intimidating villain, and with a non-stop ramping up of impressive action scenes. A lot like Project Horizons in that regard, but much more concise. 4 words: multi-blade unicorn sword fights. Upheaval. Imagine if, surrounding Equestria as we know it, are barrier lands being constantly attacked by other kingdoms. And imagine if Celestia's brother controlled the armies defending her heartland, while ponies inside lived blissfully unaware of what was happening. And then imagine that Twilight Sparkle accidentally teleported herself past Celestia's barrier to that world of Lord of the Rings style warfare. That is how Upheaval Breaking Point begins, and it just gets better from there. The brother, Prince Torado, is a very well-made character, and Upheaval has one of my favorite interpretations of Celestia, shattering her mask and showing her as totally fallible. Also fallible are the main 6, whose relationships are tested by the struggles and necessities of war. On top of this is one of my favorite villains from a fanfic, one who feels strategic and totally in control, steps ahead of the heroes at all times. I've not actually caught up with the series, but I've seen enough to count it here. This Platinum Crown. This is a sequel to The Best Night Ever, a Groundhog Day story where Blue Blood lives in the Grand Galloping Gala over and over again until he finally makes it work and successfully wins Rarity's heart. That is a very different story. If Upheaval is Lord of the Rings, this is Game of Thrones. The cutthroat world envisioned by the author surrounding Equestria's noble class is intriguing and dangerous, and Rarity finds herself thrown headfirst into a competition to become the leading lady of Canterlot. But then Chrysalis shows her buggy head, and this becomes the best changeling story I've ever read. There is an army of interesting, multi-dimensional characters. The author does a fantastic job straying away from black and white moments, and you often see fights between 2 parties where neither is the bad guy, or neither is the good guy for that matter. Also, they managed to make Blue Blood a great character. Bravo! This one is long, and it's not finished, and I hate myself for starting it because I'm just twiddling my thumbs waiting for the ending. Now some quicker shots through my other favorites. Through the Eyes of Another Pony was one of the first fics I read. It's a story that should not work but does despite itself. This is a human in Equestria story that totally embraces the tropes that often plague the genre, but it does this so well and so unforgivingly that it wraps back around to being an engaging, often hilarious story that is half finished. The Sweetie Chronicles Fragments is really interesting. In this story, Sweetie screws up Twilight's experiment and causes her to be fragmented across different universes. These universes are all other fanfics, and it explores the likes of The Immortal Game, This Platinum Crown, and Fallout Equestria. Sometimes it even improves on them, and it's the most interesting portrayal of Sweetie Belle I've seen. The Hard Reset trilogy, these are so fun. Hard Reset is like Edge of Tomorrow, or Live Die Repeat if you saw it on DVD. That Tom Cruise alien invasion Groundhog Day movie. Twilight is forced to relive another changeling invasion of Canterlot, dying over and over again while trying to make it work and save Equestria. It's full of character, energy, and dark humor. The sequels go into time travel and a very nice characterization of young Starswirl the Bearded. These are the shortest and most manageable stories I've mentioned so far. Eternal. This was another fantastic interpretation of Celestia, and the story follows a strained and guilty relationship between the princess and her faithful student. I've actually forgotten most of this narrative, but I know it was touching and great in a way that's much lower key than most of the stories I've highlighted. Past Sins. This one's a pretty well-known classic. Solid maternal relationship between Twilight Sparkle and Nyx, the reincarnation of Nightmare Moon, who has to face the demons of her past. A bit Mary Sue, yes, but this story's done well. Based on these, if you guys have a story to recommend, preferably one that's finished, feel free to shout them out in the comments. And finally, an extension of that, favorite characters from Pony fanfiction. That's tough. In terms of original characters, I'm thinking Little Pip from Fallout Equestria, Golden Blood from Project Horizons, Prince Torado from Upheaval, Alpha Brass from This Platinum Crown, and maybe Firewall from Through the Eyes of Another Pony. He is delightfully ridiculous. As for canon characters, I'd include Lyra from Background Pony, Twilight from Hard Reset and Upheaval, Celestia in The Immortal Game and Eternal, and Blue Blood from The Best Night Ever, Sweetie Chronicles, and This Platinum Crown. They all follow the same character. And finally, what is your favorite alternate version of any MLP character? I included that here because my last answer applies to it as well. Otherwise, I would toss in Sweetie Bot from Friendship is Witchcraft, and Dash from Mentally Advanced and Rainbow Dash Presents. Alright guys, that was part 2 of my Q&A. In part 1 we covered the show, in this part we covered the community, and in the next part we'll tackle everything that doesn't have to do with tiny pastel horses, if such a thing can even exist. Personally, I have my doubts. But thank you all for watching this middle chapter, and I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, creativity is intelligence having fun.